Welcome to this Ibrox, it's your Rangers podcast. It's Sunday night. It is the 14th of August and it's Scott Patterson taking you through the next hour or so. Don't forget this Ibrox now is live right across all the obvious places. We are on YouTube tonight. We're live on Facebook and Twitter as well. So thank you if you're joining us on any of those platforms tonight. Thanks for taking time out on your Sunday to join us. Before we get into the weeds and I introduce our guest tonight, big thank you to our friends at Zenith Coins who are looking after us as per usual. They've created a set of 5 wonderfully crafted coins, each celebrating huge milestones in the club's 150-year history. A coin for the founding fathers, one for Ibrox Stadium, one that celebrates the Cup Winners' Cup squad of the Barcelona Bears in 1972, a squad which celebrates the 9-in-a-row guys, and finally, but by no means least, a coin that celebrates the 55th League Championship win under Steven Gerrard. You can check out the coins across on their website. All the W's, zenithcoins.com. Jump on and have a look if you possibly can. Well worth it. Joining us on the pod tonight, they're not newbies, maybe a bit sort of, maybe 2 Scott Wrights, I think is fair. We'll say hi to Chris first. Hi, Chris Cherry. How are you, mate?
I was all right until I got compared to Scott Wright.
How are you? All right?
No bad, thanks.
Good man, good to have you on. And Stephen Conroy joins us again. Hi, Stephen. How are you, bud?
Doing great. I'm loving the Scott Wright comparison. I'll take that.
Lots of energy. That's what we need to bring tonight. Lots of energy. Listen, tonight on the pod, I just wanted, there's a couple of things that we obviously have to discuss. We will discuss in the first instance, we'll look at the game at Ibrox yesterday where Rangers, I felt, were more convincing in the second half than they certainly were in the first. We'll look ahead to the PSV game at Ibrox on Tuesday. Massive game, huge match, and we'll do a little bit on the signings that have arrived so far and just how you guys feel they have done to date. Also tonight, we're going to look back on that sort of 4-1 game. The one thing that I want to focus on in particular is the team selection from that game in October 1999 when Rangers did indeed cuff PSV at Ibrox 4-1. I should say, if you're watching on YouTube tonight, by all means, pop your comments into the comments box, and if we can get to them, we will. We've got a couple of regulars on there. RFC, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. And we've got a visitor from Los Angeles. Dale is on tonight. So again, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time. And as I say, if we've got comments in there, we'll interact with them by all means. Chris, I'll start with you first. Ibrox is really nice in the sunshine, isn't it?
Aye, absolutely roasting yesterday, but cracking day for a game, I suppose. But I'm 3 rows for the top of the stadium. It was about half an hour in. I was like, oh, is this even worth it? But we ended up getting the victory, a convincing victory at that.
So where I sit in this, I'm next to the director's box and I look right across to the poor buggers in the sandy Jardin.
That's
and
me.
the people, one of you, and all these people that are in that sort of maybe the more expensive high life chairs that go across the centre of the stand, they must be a wee bit red today, I would suggest. Cracking day. Stephen, I mean, we speak a lot about summer football and how good it would be. I mean, I don't know if I would want to put up with a couple of months of playing in this intense heat that we've had this last 10 days or so.
It's unbelievable. It's like, I don't know how the players do it, man. As you said, they're just no used to it. They're no acclimatised to it. And no wonder they needed that water break, didn't they? Half an hour or whatever it was, because they definitely needed it. But especially, as you said, for the poor guys, I must add the fact of 50 on them were probably still burnt to Chris. So, no, it's tough going. And it's probably as well hard for the St Johnstone players. So it's also going to make it tough for the players. But we came out on top in the end, and I suppose that's the main thing. He didn't play too much a factor.
Absolutely. Chris, we'll start with you. So we know we'll sort of cover the goals as and when we get to that juncture. How did you feel we played in the first half?
I thought we huffed and puffed for quite a bit yet. I think Tav put in quite a good few deliveries and there was nobody on the end of them. Yeah. Borna had a few, but particularly it was Tav. He was constantly putting them in at the back post. Nobody seemed to be attacking it. And obviously, eventually Tillman did attack it and we ended up getting the goal for it, but it wasn't too convincing. St Johnstone just sat in, we knocked it about, but I think we need to be hitting more shots. I think we missed Lawrence in the first half yesterday. He likes to hit a shot, but I think the only one that maybe had a wee glance at goal was Lundstrom at one point, but apart from that, if they just try to walk it in the net.
And Stephen, notable starts for Ben Davies, of course, started his first competitive start for the club. Ryan Jack came back in after missing a couple of games. Scott Wright was in there on the right-hand side as well. How did you feel they three sort of featured individually during the game?
I thought Scott Wright, I mean, the comparison at the start of the show, but you're never going to get goals and assists from Scott Wright. He's the type of, he'll work hard, he good runs off the ball, good dribbler, but there's always just that end product that's missing for me with Scott Wright. I just didn't think he had his best game yesterday. Ben Davies, thought he was pretty solid. I mean, apart from that one chance with that cross ball, that boy probably should have scored.
Yeah.
Bit of a mix-up, kind of, and then pitting off Borna as well. Thought he looked all right. It's always good having a kind of left-footed player in the back as well, just for the balance of the centre-back pairing. And I thought Ryan Jack did pretty well as well. Played quite advanced, maybe, than we're used to, but I thought he did pretty well.
Chris, I think Stephen's absolutely right. One of the things that I sort of cottoned on to straight away is that Jack was a bit more advanced yesterday, and I think we've almost got used to, frustratingly, I think, seeing two sort of sixes almost sitting in front of the back four. We definitely never saw that yesterday. Lundstrom was Lundstrom, just running the midfield as per and as you tend to expect. But Jack was maybe playing in that slightly unfamiliar, more advanced role.
I think Lundstrom could have played in the middle of the park his cell at times yesterday.
Yeah,
it felt as though he was playing in the middle of his cell. Jack played all right. I think he looks a wee bit off the pace compared to the rest, but as Stephen was saying, he's been at the team for a few weeks, so kind of gave him a wee bit of slack there. But I'd quite like to see Lawrence in the middle with Lundstrom more often against these kind of teams, but obviously we had to rest Lawrence and a few others yesterday. So
stick with you, Chris. One of the things that sort of gave us all a bit of palpitation, I think, yesterday was the cross ball that came in for Jamie Murphy, no less. And I actually thought, I have to say, I thought Borna Barisic played really quite well yesterday. But the conversation would have been entirely different, I think, had they had scored from that. And I think, interesting to hear Stephen say that maybe Ben Davies gets caught underneath the ball a little bit, and Borna's unfortunate in the sense that he's there when it ricochets. The boy should score. There's no two ways about that. When you've seen it, I think you're instantly looking to, you're almost blaming Borna for maybe just not being switched off. And I think Ben Davies maybe gets away with one there because he's the new kid in the block.
Aye, I'd agree with that. I thought Borna was really good yesterday as well. He's come in for stick for the last few weeks, and rightly so, but I think he played well midweek and then he's carried it on again yesterday. I thought he played really well. We weren't doing too much to stand out. I just think he'd kept it basic and done well. Davies, felt more comfortable with Davies in yesterday. He wasn't really tested that often, obviously, but it felt more comfortable having a left-footed centre-back in there.
Yeah. John Moffat jumps into the YouTube chats to say that he speaks a little bit about Lawrence and Tillman being the best guys that we've brought in so far, which we'll get to as the pod goes on, and refers to Davies not really being tested yesterday. So it's a wee bit difficult to judge. I think you can agree with that to a certain extent, because St Johnstone did have the sort of traditional bank, and then expect us to break them down. Stephen, we spoke about John Lundstrom and how he was particularly impressive again yesterday. The midfield is his, as far as I'm concerned, to run and do as he chooses. And he stung the St Johnstone's goalkeeper's hands in that first half, didn't he?
It's Big John in it. He strolls it in the middle of the park. I think I spoke about it in a previous pod a while back, but it was amazing how just in January time we couldn't have got John Lundstrom out the door quicker with a lot of fans. Absolutely. And look at him now; he's one of the first names in the team sheet, and definitely the number one man in midfield. And he's all action. You know, he gives you everything. He's confident in the ball. He can switch play well, and you've seen that in a couple of times last season. I remember the Hearts game at home, the one each game, he scored that cracking goal from range, and Dortmund go away. He's got that in his locker, and get him in those positions, he's capable. So, looks like he's every game. He's like at least a 7 or 8 out of 10. So if we can keep him obviously fit and firing every game, then it's just now that balance in midfield. Just going back to kind of the talking about, as you said, playing Jack more advanced. It seemed like Rangers were trying to get those triangles out wide. Jack, Tav and Wright working, Tillman, Barisic and Matondo as a wee triangle working, but Big John just keeping everything perfect in the middle. So I thought he played really well again yesterday.
I think what we should see a lot more of this season is us having the almost a bank of five. So you're sort of back four and your midfielder, who I think 9 times out of 10 is going to be John Lundstrom. And everything advanced of John Lundstrom should just have a free roll to do as they please. And the home games at Ibrox against, and use the term, but I'm going to, the jobbers, we absolutely should be seeing 5 creative options up there, 5 really advanced players, technically good, and guys that we know we're going to get a lot from. Brings me quite nicely onto Malik Tillman, Chris. Sort of leaped higher than the moon on Tuesday night to put us into the knockout stage of the Champions League, which I cannot wait for on Tuesday, but we'll come to that. And scores a really good header again yesterday as well, you have to say. Not an easy header. He puts it into, I think, quite a difficult bit of the goal as well. And I see that as someone who couldn't header the ball for toffee. He just continues to impress every time we see him. I think that if we have an agreement in place to sort of get that guy to sign a contract, we do it as soon as possible.
I said that to my brother yesterday, we should be signing him now. He disagrees and said, he might be, we've seen it with players before, they start off well and tail off, but you can see there now he's 3 steps ahead of most of the folk in the park. And then I think the way it works, we've got the option to buy, but then if it gets to the season, a team might have tapped him up in his ear, and he doesn't want to sign at the end of the season. So I think the quicker we can get it done, we're going to make a good bit of money on him if he kicks on the way he is now. He's back. I think he's had a back heel nearly every game he's played in. It's took 3 or 4 players. Some parts of the game he looks a bit disinterested, and then the next minute there's a wee back heel. He's took 4 guys out and created a chance.
Yeah.
And I think he's MVP at the moment for me anyway. Yeah,
listen, I complete, and MVP is exactly the way that we should refer to him. I think if there's a deal to be done, and I've heard bits and pieces from sources sort of better informed than I am, and apparently Bayern Munich are looking for north of 5 million, probably close to 6, for a deal to be done. Listen, my own personal opinion is if that's what Bayern Munich want from him, they should make a point of doing it. I think they should give him the cash. He's a young guy. And Stephen, he's got so much in his locker. We know how technically he's very, very clever. Bayern Munich don't sign Diddies. It's as simple as that. I don't care what anyone says. They don't have any guff players. And for us to bring him over and get any sort of deal written into that contract, that, you know what I mean, if everything goes great and all parties are quite happy, we can make something permanent. I just think it's a fantastic alternative for the club, and if they can get the deal done, they definitely should.
100%, and it goes, as you said, not only has he got the technical side of the game, but he's physical. He's only 19, 20, but he's 6'1", and the boy looks like he can handle himself, which is always a big part of Scottish football. The rough and tumble of the Scottish game, and he looks like he's well equipped to handle that. And add that technical side to it, you've got yourself a wee gem of a player there. He just does look, he's like so far ahead. Like, I think a couple of times against USG midweek, balls are getting fired into him, and he's playing first touch back heels. And I think there was one where a ball was fired in and he headed it back around the Tav, like cushioned header. It was just like, he's just so clever. And he's adding goals now. At least that's 2 and 2 scored in the last 2 games. So we've been crying out for more goals from midfield. I know there's always an over-reliance on guys like Alfredo and at times Kamar Roof, but if we can add stuff, because I'll be honest, I don't think Kent's, apart for the 1 season, the 55 season, I don't think Kent's maybe going to be reliable for goals. I think they got 2 or 3 last year maybe in the league. And also we're hoping for Matondo to do the same, but this boy, if he can keep scoring goals, and then that's a no-brainer to get him signed up as soon as possible.
Yeah, listen, I completely agree. I think the one thing that I think maybe will maybe put people off getting the deal could perhaps be the influence that it has on maybe the breaking through, or the further breaking through, guys like Alex Lowry, which I understand. However, Giovanni's main job will be to pick the best team and pick the best players. And if Malik Tillman's a better option in that number 10 role than Alex Lowry, it'll be Tillman we'll see, and we'll see him time and time again. And I think as supporters, that's exactly what we want to see. Don't forget, if you're watching us on YouTube tonight, jump into the comments, leave us a comment if we can get to it. We'll certainly make a point of interacting with you. This is Ibrox and Scott Patterson for your Sunday night time. Joined on the pod tonight by Chris and Stephen. We went in 1-0 at half time, gentlemen. Stephen, I'll come back to you. I felt we came out in the second half and we looked entirely different from how we did in the first. I thought we looked a lot more fluid. I thought Matondo looked like a different player from what he did in the first half. I was really impressed with him. We went 2-0 up, and it was tricky work by Matondo and Cholak. And I think we now know that he was offside. I think if you delve really, really deeply into the rule book, he was offside. However, he wasn't at Livingston, so we can scratch that one off as the one that we're due. The one thing I did like about it, Stephen, I thought it was a really good finish for the boy.
It seems to be his signature finish as well. You've seen that with the kind of goal against Kilmarnock, that first touch and get the shot away, go low, go into the corner. And he's really good at it. I think the obvious signs are there. I know he's getting a bit of slack a couple of games ago, and again, maybe it's the fickle nature of Rangers fans or the Old Firm fans. It's players are judged within 2 games, and we've already got an opinion of him. But scored in his last 3 games. He works hard for the team. He presses well, and you give him a chance, he'll score a goal. Might need a couple in a game, but you create those chances for him, the goals will come. So it was a great finish, great turn. I was really impressed with that finish as well yesterday, and it keeps Alfredo on his toes as well. He knows now he's got a boy behind him that's going to score the goals for him, and Alfredo doesn't want to. If he's with it, his kind of pressing and his finishing, his ability in games aren't there, then he knows he's got a boy that's going to come and take his place. But you'll see right now it's Cholak's position, so it's up for Alfredo to take that away from him.
Absolutely. Chris, I know you fancy yourself as a better striker, and we've seen the evidence, so you can justifiably say it. He's really, 3-3. I don't think you can argue with that. I really, really like the way I like his hard work. I think his ethic is excellent, and it's comparable to the other Croatian strikers we've had. I think the ability that he has to sort of lead the line thus far, I think, has been impressive. And listen, Stephen Conroy is absolutely like Chris. I think his finish yesterday was very much the sort of signature mark for him, wasn't it?
Goals win games. I don't care if he doesn't do anything else apart from put the ball in the net. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
But I've seen some folk are saying he just stands up front, doesn't he show for the ball, doesn't he offer anything. But you can see that he presses the keeper, forces them into errors. He gets defenders moving about, creates space for other people. But you can see a mile away he's a good player. I think he'll bag 20 goals easy if he's given the service. I think it's been a while since we've actually had a striker that's got 20 goals in a season. But you could see it yesterday. I thought he looked up for it straight away. I think the ball came down to him in front of the Govan, and he dropped the shoulder and sent the defender the wrong way. You could tell straight away. It was the first minute he done it. He's no longer the whipping boy though. Everybody will move on to somebody else now, I think.
You know, the thing that gets me, and I've seen a few people, and it surprised me. I've seen people sort of suggest that he's the striker that everyone thought Etienne was going to be. I just think he's a far better striker than Etienne is. I mean, I really do, and that's not a dig at said the Ted by any manner of means. I just think he's a better striker, and I think we've been. I think everyone's very aware of the issues we've had with strikers. Alfredo is slowly but surely nursing himself back to full fitness. Roof can't get fit for whatever reason. I don't think anyone's really 100% sure on that. He's had to come in and hit the ground running. He's done that. 3-3. If someone had told me at the start of the season that he was going to get 3-3, I would have been delighted with that. And I think he's someone that will very, very shortly become a fan's favourite, and I think he's on his way there. Ross Chalmers from the pod has jumped into the comments saying, "Where's the Lawrence praise? We will come to it, Ross. Settle down." He actually scored the 4th goal, but before we get to that, wonderful work, Stephen, by Rabia Matondo, who, as I say, really came on to a game in the second half. I think everyone was expecting him to fire the ball across to Morelos. I'm glad he never, because I think it would have been a harder ball. The assist to Arfield was excellent, and that was a really good finish from Scott Arfield, wasn't it?
And it's Arfield doing what Arfield does, isn't it? Yeah. Was it David Martindale said the other time? But he always finds these positions, you know. He's dead clever with his runs, and I think we don't really have Arfield in the team for this football and ability on the ball, going to spray passes and unlock defences. But what he does do is he always runs in behind. He makes those third man runs, which defenders hate. They're hard to pick up from the midfield.
Yeah.
And I think they were talking about it on Sports Team last night, even though I don't really listen to that Michael Stewart, know what I'm saying. But but they're right. It's not just luck. He can't. A player like Arfield can't just keep finding himself in positions like that. And if you call him lucky, he's clearly got a knack for it, and he's came away with right place, right time, and an excellent finish. So, but it was brilliant work from Weerabbey again. And Drew said they could have maybe taken that past to Morelos, but it was clever. Went round the keeper and just was patient, picked out the right ball, and it was a great goal.
Chris, it's strange how but it's not strange how our game works. I think everyone largely expected everyone to raise their eyebrows when Arfield sort of got a bit of an extension towards the end of last season. I think a lot of people thought he was one for the off alongside Davis and McGregor. We all know the story and how it's went. He's so reliable, Scott Arfield. When he's there, he's absolutely there. We saw him last week on Tuesday night, making some of that second runs that he's became so famous for, if you like. We know him to be the guy that's doing those second runs in behind the striker. He done it loads on Tuesday night and continuously wasn't picked out. He's just one of these guys that keeps coming back. I think his appetite for the game at Rangers is really, really impressive. And I think a lot of the guys who have maybe came in the summer and maybe have not understood the size of Rangers, the expectancy of Rangers, what we want as support, what Scottish football in some respects maybe expects from Rangers. I think they could learn a lot from Scott Arfield because he gets it.
He's already proven in a few games already that he deserved his new deal. He offers something. I think a few times in midweek game he ended up ahead of Cholak quite often. Yeah. He just wasn't, nobody could pick out the pass. But his runs are brilliant. I think Lawrence, he's going to be the one that will end up maybe making kind of similar runs. But you need to be keeping, like, say, Arfield and Davis. If you're bringing in a turnover of players, you can't expect them all to come in and just grasp straight away what it's like to play for Rangers. You need to keep a couple of the more experienced boys there to make sure that the standards not are high. Definitely.
Chris, I think that, listen, we saw Tom Lawrence at his best, I felt, last Tuesday. And this will please Ross because we're going to Tom Lawrence now. Really impressive last Tuesday. I felt him and Lundstrom sort of playing that sort of pivot, if you like. I thought was really, really impressive. I suspect it's something you'll see on Tuesday coming. He came off the bench yesterday, scored his first goal for the club, and generally was really impressive again. There's no doubt to pick him up for hee-haw from Derby is a really, really clever bit of business on behalf of the football club.
He's really good. He's taken to the club straight away. I think he'll end up getting double figures for us if he keeps playing the way he is. I'm sure I tipped him in the preview predictions that for Player of the Year, so I'm quite happy so far. Maybe Tillman will give him a run, but he loves a shot. You don't need to invite him for a shot. He'll hit it. If he can even get a glance of goal, he's hitting it. But I like him in that role inside Lundstrom when we're playing teams in the league. Apart from maybe the bigger teams, I'll be happy with him and Lundstrom in the middle of the park. Although it's Kent, Matondo and Tillman ahead of them.
I think
teams.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think that sort of 2-3-1, Lundstrom, Lawrence, Tillman, Kent. Who did you say on the right hand side?
I've gone for Matondo if he kicks on for the rest of the season. I think that's who I would go for.
See, I think that's quite fair. I think that is what the Rangers fans would like to see, because apart from anything else, you know that Tom Lawrence can break with the ball and be that more advanced player, which leaves Lundstrom and the four guys behind them just to.
He also puts his cell a bit. He can likes a tackle, doesn't he? I think he's got a yellow card nearly every game.
I think that's quite good, because I think too many times we have seen elements of not softness, because we know that the standard of the officiating in the country isn't good, not just for Rangers, across the board. It's just not good enough. However, I think it's good to just have two midfielders in there who aren't afraid to pick up a booking, not be reckless with it, not be dirty with it, not disgrace the jersey or anything like that, but just, do you know what I mean? Not be afraid to make sure, you know what I mean, you guys are playing against Rangers here, and you're only going to get it your own way. You're in our house now, type thing. Stephen, one last thing on the game from yesterday. I think maybe people were a little bit surprised not to see Ridvan Yilmaz play any part in the game at all. For a couple of reasons, probably the outlay in the first instance, and everyone largely expects him to be the first choice left back. Were you surprised not to see him at all?
Very. I mean, I know when I was speaking to my mates before, and I thought before the team came out, I definitely thought him and Davies would be the ones that you'd see starting, especially just it's the kind of perfect game to ease them in, league game at home. What you're going to get from St Johnstone. Team is going to just sit back in a low block, and it's going to get a lot of time on the ball, but not even to come off the bench either. Was a bit shocked, and because of that, I can't really see him starting on Tuesday night now. I think he'll probably go with Barisic again.
Yeah.
And the boy he's showing in glimpses. I think even when he came off the bench in that first leg against USG, he looked. Some of his early touches looked promising. He was taking the ball forward. Sometimes I think Barisic can be guilty of his first thought in his head is on getting the ball and I'm playing it back the way. He doesn't even look forward. And especially in the game on Tuesday, I was sitting in the main stand and you could hear a lot of groans in that first half anyway.
Yeah.
In the crowd, when Barisic just kind of that hesitant kind of way to just pick the ball and drive forward or just play it forward. There was a lot of guys making runs in behind, which I think Ridvan will give you. But yeah, on yesterday, I'm shocked. Not shocked, it's probably a strong word, but I'm surprised that he didn't play any part at all. But he's still a young boy, he's only 21, he's new country. He's probably still just getting used to the place. If Gio doesn't feel he's ready, just best ease him in and not just when he's not ready, just don't chuck him in.
Yeah, listen, I think you're absolutely right. I think he's clearly going to be one of these guys that, and I can hear Gavin Kelly from the group sort of screaming in my ear, it's not his place to define what the transfer fee is. He's going to be one of these guys, I think, over the fullness of time, the support will be like that. We've forked out X amount of millions on this guy and he's not playing. That's not his fault. If Barisic is playing well, the jersey's got to be his, surely, until times change. And I think Chris Barisic played really quite well yesterday. And I think that he actually may benefit from having competition and the awareness that Yilmaz is there for X amount of million and does want to come and play and is younger than him. It may just be a boot in the arse that Barisic may get that might not do him any harm.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can all agree Yilmaz, he will get his chance and probably will be the left back, but as Stephen said, we don't need to be rushing him in. He's a young guy coming out. I don't even think he speaks a word of English as far as I know, so he looked pretty nervous in his debut at Ibrox as well, so I think it'd be crazy to fling him in on Tuesday night. You know what the atmosphere is going to be like. If one misplaced pass for him, he was already getting it in the debut game. I think he misplaced a pass and they were on him straight away.
Yeah.
So I would just bed him in, take it easy. As long as Borna's playing all right the last few games, then we don't need to be rushing.
Absolutely. So don't forget, we are live right across all the obvious social media places. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for your time. If you're watching us on Facebook and Twitter, also thanks for taking time out on your Sunday night to join us. If you are watching us on our YouTube feed, throw some comments in there and we will get to them as and when we can. It probably won't surprise you to know that we've got a couple of lurkers in there because it's a Rangers podcast that's on. What we should say is that Scott Mitchell has jumped into the chat and he's actually came up with a really good question that relates to who your favourite sort of previous Dutch Rangers players done. So we'll come to that shortly and I'm curious to know who you guys will see. Stephen is wearing a fantastic top tonight, which reminds us of an era when Dutch were really prevalent at Ibrox. So we'll look forward to coming to that. Listen, before we look ahead a little bit, Chris, to the PSV Eindhoven game on Tuesday, massive, such a big game. I want to do a little bit on the signings that have came in so far. Cholak, we spoke about. Matondo. How do you think he's settled in? Are you impressed? Is there anything you're not sure about? Where does he sit with you just now?
I think yesterday he struggled first half. I think I was one of the ones in the chat saying he's struggling in that. I think, but the second half, I don't know if he maybe plays better on the left than he does on the right. I think I read he played on the left in Belgium, so certainly yesterday in the second half he kicked on. I like he gets right to the byline Usually we'll go down and we'll put a cross in. He likes to get to the byline and play the cut back. He's done it a few times now, like he done with Arfield yesterday. I like how he actually picks a pass rather than just drawing it in the box and hope somebody gets in the end of it. Plus his effort off the bar yesterday, so that was some effort too.
Oh my goodness!
For a team that doesn't shoot outside the box, I wasn't expecting it.
Do you know, I'll be honest with you. I think it took everyone. And I don't want to sound like Davy Provan, who always says this when he used to be allowed on the telly. Very little backlift, but it was true. I mean, he really had very little backlift. I thought it was sailing right in the top corner. And there's no doubt if you look at the highlights reel from it again, the St Johnstone keeper had no chance. He was nowhere near it. And I think if it sails in the top corner, you're probably looking at an early candidate for goal of the season. Really pleased with Tondo in the second half yesterday. I agree with you fully, Chris. I felt in the first half he looked a wee bit. Do you know the way he just looked like he was settling in? And I think one thing that we are finding just now, Stephen, is that the players are slowly but surely beginning to gel. There is a fluidity that just is suddenly becoming more apparent. I think it's coming at a right time. I think we saw Davies play that sort of left-sided centre half role. While I felt he looks not as fast as maybe you would like your centre half to be, it was no coincidence that you saw Connor Goldson going a couple of mazes and he's crossing things in for the right-hand side yesterday. So I suggest that Connor Goldson perhaps also has a bit more faith in Davies alongside him as opposed to anyone else at the club just now.
100%. I think as well with how deep St Johnstone were playing, and you've seen how advanced the Ryan Jack and Tillman especially were playing, there was that space for a Goldson to step out into the midfield and bring that extra man in there. But I agree that once it's so early days. I mean, Ben Davies' first start. You think we just spoke about Ridvan, didn't even play. Matondo only played a handful of games. These guys are just game by game. You'll see the improvement, and hopefully by the time kind of a couple of months in, we'll be really fit and firing to the fullest. But if we're going back to Matondo, as Chris was saying earlier on about being in Belgium, he did, I think, play most of his games just off the left and as like a kind of second striker, and you can see that in his game, that wanting to come. Also, he can get to the byline as well, and he's so quick, but he likes to get that shot away. And I feel like maybe on that right hand side, he struggled just with the way being right footed. I don't think he's maybe the best on the left foot, but he's one as well. Second half thought looked a lot brighter, and once everyone's, I think with him on the right hand side, Kent on the left, guys like Tillman, Morelos maybe when he's fit and firing, it's quite an exciting prospect for all them, and it's the fluidity, as you said, that they should be able to work with. It should be quite exciting to watch.
Yeah, Stephen, RFC 56 has jumped in. I think it was RFC. It's went off my feed, but I think he jumped in and said, regardless of how well Cholak has been playing and how he started, when you consider the Alfredo situation, which I'll come on to in a second, and you sort of double team that up, if you like, with the Kmart roof thing, whatever that is just now. I think we need another striker in here before deadline day. Do you?
Roof is just, I don't think Gio fancies him, to be honest. Gio's maybe lost kind of his patience with him, and maybe it's not his fault, but he just can't stay fit. How can you trust a guy that just can't? And Cholak's came in. Do you trust guys that maybe I know Tillman in his youth career at times has played up front, but you really want to have maybe 2-3 strikers at least if you're playing that one up top that are reliable and that can rotate out for certain games. It's maybe a lot to ask, because Morelos has had a couple injuries in the past. If Cholak gets an injury, it can happen to any of them. Yeah, and it's just having the bodies there. So ideally, maybe if Roof, we don't know what's going to happen, well, maybe it's best to just bring in an extra striker just to be safe. I would agree with that.
Chris, Gio was quick to point out pre-match yesterday that Alfredo's done very little with the football since he got injured last season to current day. He's just not done a lot. I think it's wrong for fans to expect Giovanni to just throw him in there from the start because we're playing big games just now. And I think, and I don't particularly like saying it, but I do think that taking into account how lean Alfredo looks, is that he maybe needs a wee bit more time to get himself into condition before we can consider him the Alfredo that we all know and love, if you like.
Definitely. I think we maybe panicked and brought him back a wee bit sooner than he should have been brought in. Maybe there was doubts if Cholak would hit the ground running, but obviously with 3 goals in 3 games, but we can maybe afford to no rush Morelos back in. But he looks a wee bit, as Stephen was saying before we came on, when he scored that goal when he came back and he just kind of hit the deck. I don't know if it was just the emotion of his comeback or if he was done in. I'm not sure, but just going back to your point with the striker, I think we definitely need to sign a striker as well. As Stephen said again, Tillman could slot in there, but I'd rather we did have 3, maybe even 4 strikers available, so we don't get a repeat of last year when we get to the Champions League, Europa League final.
Oh yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, my friend. Listen, as I say, Scott Mitchell jumped into the chats and he asked a really good question. Our favourite Dutch Rangers player. Stephen, I'll come to you first because you've got that cracking red top on from the late 90s. And I said to you off camera, if you had Stefan Guivars in the back of it, you assure me you've not, but you've not turned around, so I'm sure it's not. It's easy to say Gio, but who's your favourite Dutch player of recent times for Rangers?
Well, I'm going to name a guy that, even though I didn't see really any of them in the flesh, I was too young, but always watching the highlights of old games and watching all the old videos back. Michael Mols for me. Just what a cracking striker, man. The wee turn he had, it was just Michael Mols for me. But Gio, what a player as well. Just again, didn't really see any of these guys because I was too young. I was only a baby, but probably Michael Mols for me. Just loved always watching the highlights of him. Just cracking player.
Chris, you're going to say Mols too, aren't you? Strikers Union.
That's how, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, that's my answer card. His wee turn. Still trying to hit 5-a-sides every week. Brilliant. I remember a goal he scored, I think it was Panathinaikos in the Champions League. It was disallowed, but the ball came in through the right-hand side and he back-heeled it into the goal. Yeah. I can't remember why it was disallowed, but I can still remember that goal. What a finish. What a player. When I was younger, I think when Oliver Kahn, I hated Oliver Kahn after that game, but it wasn't until I got a wee bit older, I was like, maybe no his fault, but what a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we've had many of them. Some of the guys are popping into the chats, and Newman gets a mention, Fernando Rickson gets a mention, Ronald de Boer gets a mention as well. I think a lot of people forget that Ronald de Boer played for us and came to us from Barcelona. I think it's something that people often sort of sidestep a little bit. Wonderful players, and we were lucky to have them. And for Ryan, who's in the chat, who can forget Big Bert Conterman getting
I was just hating Conterman.
So listen, on Tuesday night, Tuesday night is a Champions League dress rehearsal by all accounts. We've got the big black and white ball in the centre circle. Stephen, what's it going to mean to you when you're in your chair getting ready for them coming out and that Champions League music comes out? How's that going to feel?
Oh, it's going to be magic. It's going to be slightly like it's still not the real thing for me. I don't know, but it'll still feel good hearing the music come over the tannoys. I'll be buzzing for it, and the atmosphere's going to be absolutely rocking in it. No doubt about that. It's a shame. I think it would have been good to have the second. I know we didn't really want to say it, but the second leg at home is always kind of that wee advantage. But hopefully, if we get there, I can take a good result over Eindhoven and see what it takes us. But it's going to be magic when it all kicks off. Can't wait.
Oh, listen, I completely, as I say, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I can't. It's been a long time since. Do you know what I mean? The games last year, on the run up to the Europa League final, Chris, were really special. Dortmund, Leipzig, they were all special games for as you continue to get closer and closer to Seville. This is just a huge game for the football club. For me, it's just as big, if not bigger, than those games last season. Again, same question to Stephen, without sounding like birthday card pish. How do you think you'll feel when you hear that sort of music blaring out the tannoy system on Tuesday night?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the chat before we came on, but there's a problem with my ticket. So as long as I get that sorted, then I actually had I've got 2 spares. One was going to Reese, and I was selling the other one the day, but I'm maybe need to hit the guy a dinghy and just keep it for myself because I'm not missing it.
You're quite right. You're quite right.
When the theme music comes on, it'll be emotional, I think. Anyway, there'll be a lot of people there that have lost like loved ones in that, probably for the last time we played in the Champions League, myself included. Used to go with my dad, so it'll be emotional. Hopefully we get the win. Listen,
Ryan is still lurking around, and it refers to Hoostra and Snelders. So Ryan knows a lot more about sort of Rangers than his other fellow fans. Go to bed, Ryan, for fuck's sake. One of the things that, let's go back to October 1999, Dick Advocat sort of looked after PS Eindhoven very well indeed at Ibrox. Of course, we beat them 4-1. I've got the team lines written up here, and we were going to do a wee fancy thing before and see if you could name the last Scotsman who played that night. This was our team for that night. It was Kloss, a back four, Sergio Perini, Craig Moore, Amoruso and Vidmar. We had Barry Ferguson in there alongside Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and Derek McInnes. Goodness me. Rod Wallace, Moles and Neil McCann. And I saw Neil McCann actually say on Rangers TV at the weekend there, he obviously scored and was very close to booting Rod Wallace's head off. It was like Rod Wallace tried to do that thing where you're lying flat out on the ground and you try and roll your head along to squeeze it in. McCann got there first. That's some team, is it not, Chris? When you read that back, and I appreciate it's 1999. Goodness me, it's a long, long time ago. I was 19 years old, but that's some 11.
Showing your age there.
I know.
I was there as well. I don't know what age I'd have been. I was young anyway, but I can barely remember it. But even some of the players in there, you forget they played with, like Tony the Tiger, Vidmar.
Absolutely.
I'll take a repeat scoreline of that night anyway.
And I think, Stephen, if memory serves me right, and I may be wrong, so I apologise if I am. Don't go off your head in the comments if we are wrong in this. I think Derek McInnes actually played one of his best games for Rangers that night. I'm almost sure he man-marked Luke Nillis out of the game. Luke Nillis was a big number 10 for Belgium back then, and McInnes really took him right out of the equation, and it was something we were really concerned about. I know that indeed you, Stephen, were quick to point out that McInnes played ahead of Alberts, which raised a few eyebrows back then.
And I'm going to put, I did not watch this game. I was 2 years old, so just to give you an idea of how old I am. But I watched the highlights back on YouTube. There's a great video just got posted a couple of days ago on one of them Rangers YouTube channels. You should watch it. And also, you remember we absolutely battered them that night. It was 4 going on 8. Or it was, I mean, if we Wallace could actually finish, so it would.
Aye,
don't know what the score would have been.
Yeah.
But even from the highlights, you could tell Derek McInnes had a storm of a game as well, and also just saying there about the Alberts getting benched for him, and so he knew he had to have a good performance. But they all played. Barry Ferguson, it was another brilliant performance, middle of the park. And what a team! I mean, what a team!
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Ruud van Nistelrooy scored the goal for Eindhoven from the penalty spot that night. And this makes me feel particularly old. It really does, because on that night, you remember that in fact, you won't know. I don't even know why I'm speaking to you guys about this. Collini was the referee that night. Remember the big, crazy, mad Italian guy? He was the referee that night. And I remember it really quite clearly. It was an incredible night for the football club. And if we listen, Chris, you're absolutely right. If we get anything like that on Tuesday night, we'll be absolutely flying. What I want to do is just, I'm aware we've been on for 40 something minutes, so we'll keep you for another 5 to 10 minutes or so. Chris, team prediction for Tuesday, who would you go with?
I've wrote it down here for the day. I'm just going to go back and apologise for saying you're showing your age, because I'd done the math and I was 12, so I wasn't too far off. In goals, McLaughlin, Tav, Goldson. I think there only is a couple of positions up for grabs. I think Borner's a certainty to start. Davies, I was comfortable with him playing there yesterday, but he wasn't really tested. Can you really fling him in? I can see Gio going with Sands, but I would rather see Davies there. Lundstrom in the middle, just himself if he wants. No, I would go with Lawrence and Lundstrom in the middle, Matondo, Tillman, Kent and Cholak, but I don't think Gio will be as gung-ho as that.
Stephen, same to you. Who would you go with for your 11 on Tuesday?
I would agree with Chris. Same goalkeeper, back four. I think he'll go with Sands. I think just Chris said Davies wasn't really tested much yesterday, so I think Tuesday. Sands has played a good few games. He's done well when they played in Europe as well, so I think he'll go with him. Midfield, I think I've got a feeling Gio's going to go a wee bit more defensive. I'm hoping we'll have God, he does not go with Kamara as a 10 or something along those lines, but I've got a feeling he might go maybe Kamara and Lundstrom, more of a holding kind of pairing. I think Lawrence has got to be a set to start. I think Cholak will start, Tillman's going to start, and I don't know, do we know what's happening with Kent, because he wasn't even on the bench yesterday, so
I think it was more of a precaution.
Right.
So I think he'll start. I assume you would start him if he's ready to go.
If he's fit, I'd start Kent. So maybe the way they had Tillman kind of as like a hybrid playing out in the right, but can come inside. Maybe Lawrence is the 10, something. Maybe Lawrence, Jack, and Kamara midfield. Maybe.
Yeah.
Kent in the left, Cholak up front.
I think a lot of the problems not problems, because it'll probably be problems that he's quite grateful for, but I think a lot will depend on whether Gio decides whether or not he'll need to drop to that back three. So if he decides that he wants Lundstrom to drop in and play a 3, he needs someone strong in the middle of the park to hold things together when Lundstrom drops in. I think he'll go with McLaughlin, Tav, Goldson. I think he'll start Sands. I agree with you absolutely both. I think he'll start Barisic at left back. I think in the middle of the park he'll go with Lundstrom and Davis. And as I say, one of the main reasons for that is I think if he asks John Lundstrom to drop back one, I think he'll prefer to have the experience of Stephen Davis just to sit and try and pull some strings. Ahead of that, I think it will be Lawrence, Tillman, Kent, and Cholak. I think that'll be the 11 that he goes with. So, and listen, I think we've got a really good chance on Tuesday night. My own particular preference would be to play the home game in the second leg, of course. I just think that to go to Eindhoven, you really need to go there after beating them at Ibrox. They've got immense quality, Chris. Lots of good players. Simmons, Veerman, they've added to their squad a lot in the summer. You just don't know what you're going to get from them. I think it's a bit pissing in the wind a little bit. I think just now, to be honest.
Veerman and Simmons were the buzzwords a couple of months ago for us, but I can't actually say I've seen them play. But I think they had a good result. I think it was yesterday, and Simmons had a few involvements as well. So I don't really know what to expect for them. They've got a few decent players. Having looked at their team on SofaScore and that, but we beat better teams last year. It's a real 50-50 tie. But if somebody told me a few months ago you're 2 legs away for PSV for the Champions, I get a bit your honour for it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think what you have is there has to be an awareness of what the carrot is if we're lucky enough to sort of qualify over 2 legs. And it is going to be difficult. I don't think there's any denying it, but I agree with you in the first instance. I think we have played better teams last season. I think I went on record as I saying sort of last season I felt that Dortmund were the best team we played in the Europa League, and I include Leipzig in that, and I include Frankfurt in the final, who were pretty rotten. I felt, to be honest with you, and won the tournament by the lottery of penalties. Incredible to have seen that they were in the Super Cup against Madrid during the week as well, by the way. Listen, it brings us on to the sort of tickly bit of the pod, and I'm going to have to ask you both for a prediction. Stephen, I'll let you go first. How do you think we'll do Tuesday?
I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say 3-0.
Oh, yes, I love it. See, that's a confident man.
Pure confidence.
Confident man, I love it.
Yeah.
Do you want to volunteer any scorers?
Tillman, a hat-trick of headers.
Oh, yes, I love it.
I was just thinking that.
Chris, go for it. I'll give you the opportunity to try and beat that if you can.
Depending on the team he picks, if he picks my team, we'll win comfortable. But if he picks his cautious team, controlled aggression is what we need on Tuesday night. But 3-1, I think we'll maybe concede to put a damper on things. But maybe after yesterday, might play Goldson in the right wing He was putting in
that's it.
Put in a couple of good crosses yesterday.
That's it. I think we will. I think we'll win 2-0 on Tuesday, and I think Tav will score a penalty, which will really wind up the natives here. Let's be honest. So fingers crossed that happens. I've really enjoyed having you both on tonight, Chris. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for having us.
Stephen, good to see you. It's always good when you come on because you've got a different top on every single time.
I'll make sure the next time I've got a new one, fresh for the pod.
Your cupboard must be absolutely hanging off the sides because you've got Rangers tops everywhere. I love it.
That's all aware.
Listen, it's great to have you on. Thanks very much.
Pleasure, Bill, and thanks for having us.
So we should say that the Rangers women's team have went up to Aberdeen today and spanked an Aberdeen team. I think it finished 8-0. Which was incredible after the start at the training centre last week when they beat Glasgow women 14-0. So listen, they're really flying just now, and of course they play Ferencvaros in the Women's Champions League next week to try and progress into the sort of next stage. Claire Gemmill and I will be back with the women's pod a little bit later in the month, so we're looking forward to that, and hopefully we have the certain members of the playing squad coming on to join us, including Malky. It would be good to get him on for his banter and chat as well at some point over the next wee while. Should say this has been this Ibrox this Sunday night. If you've joined us across any of our social platforms tonight, whether it's Twitter, whether it's been Facebook, which we're now live on, or of course if you joined us on YouTube and indeed got involved in the chat, we thoroughly enjoy you sort of taking time out to liaise with us. Your Sunday nights are important. We're glad you spend it with us. If you aren't following us in all the obvious places, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, we're all on there. By all means, jump on and have a look. We're also available wherever you get your podcasts. We are not far off 19,000 followers on Twitter. We're aiming for 20. Let's get to 19,000 first. If you can get us up there, we'll be very grateful. Thanks for joining us. Adam is back tomorrow night with the Monday Bulletin. He's joined by two guys who I can't remember just now, but be sure to check them out for all your Monday Rangers news. That's all for now. Thanks for watching and good night.